Is that better? Can you guys hear me now? Is it working now? Hello, hello? Is this thing on? It's working now? Yeah, it's working now? Okay. Alright. Well, hello. It's working now. Welcome to We See You and We Hear You. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone see me? Well, I'm glad that it's working now, despite the fact that it wasn't working before. Ooh, it's working. I have a call in 7 minutes, but hopefully it'll be 15 minutes and I can come back. Yes, hopefully. Hopefully. I'm gonna make my coffee in a to-go cup because my sister is gonna come get me at 8 o'clock so that she can go to a doctor's appointment and I can watch Zoe. Cole keeps calling in the chat and I'm getting concerned. Is he okay? Is everything okay with Cole? I don't know. Is he alright? Is everybody okay? Is everyone drinking water? Is everyone hydrating? Does everyone have their coffee? Are we all alive? Are we all okay? Everybody okay? I mean, I'm here, but I'm not sure I'm even awake yet. Fair enough. Thank you for the new follow. Dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow. I drank water for the first time in ages today and I have a headache. It's probably flushing some stuff out of your system, Jody. You'll probably have a headache for the first couple of days of it, to be honest. Chugging the rest of my coffee so I can make a second cup. Fair. I need to drink more water. Morning. Alright. This is not going to be a perfect pour kind of day because this is a to-go cup, but you know, it's one of those things. I gotta watch a tiny baby. She's not that small. I don't know why I keep calling her tiny baby. She's really not that small of a kid. She's not a baby anymore. I'm getting ready to go to work most of the night. Mom's on the verge. Uh-oh. Haley, what's going on? I'm kind of going to Zoe. I mean, she's coming to me, but we have to go, like, out. And so I figured I'd make my coffee in a to-go cup so that if I had some left, it could come with me. She can't move and is pain and called in sick. She's never called in my entire life. Well, then she should go right now, if that's the case. She shouldn't be on the verge of an ER visit. She should be going. Yeah. How was her ballet class? Ballet class was great. This is not a ballet day. This is something else. But yeah, ballet was great. She loves ballet. That kid is gonna be a ballerina. There's no question. Or she's gonna be a dancer of some sort. There's no question about that. No question that kid is gonna dance. I mean, that's a rock and a hard place kind of situation. That's one of the things, I was going to say, that makes this country really difficult. When does Cole get off work? Doesn't he work like really early in the morning? Hot? That was very hot. Didn't see that coming. That's a really rock and a hard place kind of situation, not having insurance and needing to go to the doctor. Maybe don't go to the ER. Maybe go to a clinic first. You know? Because sometimes clinics are a little bit more reasonable. Now till 2:30 this afternoon, and it's 8. I'll be off at 4. Maybe he can take her at 2:30 if she needs to go. Yeah, like an urgent care clinic, yeah. Rather than the ER. Eesh. Not a good situation. Not a good situation. All right, it is 7 o'clock, pretty much on the nose, 6:59. So we're going to get started since I do have to go right at 8 today. We are at chapter 10, just a little under the halfway point of this book right now, which is pretty cool. So let's get going and see how much we can get through today before the ER is more expensive, but urgent care requires payment up front. Oh, that's a good point. Oh. All right, let's get going. The Red Riding Hood Kingdom. The subtle shakes of the pear cart finally rocked Alex and Connor to sleep. If they hadn't been so exhausted from the previous restless night and eventful day, the shock of discovering the glass slipper in their possession would have kept them up all night. The next morning, they awoke as the cart was arriving in the northern village it was destined for. The first thing Alex did when she awoke was to make sure that the slipper was still in her tight grip as it had been when she'd fallen asleep. She couldn't let go of it. She was afraid that if it wasn't in her hands at all time, it might disappear just as easily as it had appeared. The mystery of how it had gotten into her bag was still the most prominent thing on their minds. "Do you think it was magic?" Connor asked Alex. "Maybe the slipper knew that we needed it and transported itself into your bag?" "I've read enough fantasy books to know that that's a possibility," Alex said. "After everything we've been through, it wouldn't be surprising. But the point is, we have it for now. It's one less item that we have to collect. So let's focus our energy on getting hold of Red Riding Hood's basket." She wrapped a blanket around the slipper for safekeeping and stored it in her bag. They didn't want any more unwanted attention from carrying it around. "I hope Cinderella or Lambton don't send soldiers after us once they realize it's gone," Connor said. Alex hadn't thought about that. What if, as they were speaking, Lambton was putting together a band of soldiers to find them and take them into captivity? "Well, then we tell him the truth and worry about it when it happens," Alex said. "But let's keep moving in the meantime." There didn't appear to be any roads or paths on the map that went to the Red Riding Hood Kingdom, so the twins were forced to travel straight through the forest of elm trees to get there. Alex read from the journal as they walked. "As everyone knows, the Red Riding Hood Kingdom is surrounded by a tall wall to keep out the wolves. There are guarded entrances into the kingdom and along the perimeter of the wall." "So we'll find the wall, find an entrance, and be inside the kingdom in no time," Alex said. "What if they don't let us in?" Connor asked. "I can't imagine why they wouldn't let us in," Alex asked. "But if they don't, this time let me do the talking." An hour or so of walking, and the twins could see the wall surrounding the kingdom in the distance. It was massive. It was 30 feet tall and made from enormous gray bricks. The same warning sign was posted on the wall every few feet or so. "Wolves beware, by CRAWL decree and approved by the Happily Ever Assembly. Wolves of any kind, breed, or color are strictly prohibited from entering the Red Riding Hood Kingdom. All trespassers will be killed and turned into rugs, coats, or decoration. You have been warned. Now be gone." "Wow," Connor said. "The wolves are definitely not getting in there." They walked beside the wall for another couple of hours, but never found an entrance. Alex reread the journal and found the part that she had missed. "There's a northern entrance, a southern entrance, an eastern entrance, and a western entrance. Each has its own path that goes to the center of the kingdom, where the town is. There is only one town in the Red Riding Hood Kingdom. The rest is bogland." "Oh no," Alex said. I misread the journal. Apparently there are only 4 entrances into the kingdom. And how close are we to one of them? Connor asked. Alex looked closely at the map and her eyes widened. Connor could tell it wasn't going to be good news. It looks like we're right in between the west entrance and the south entrance, which means more walking, Connor said with a furrowed forehead and his hands on his hips. Yes, Alex said, bearing the bad news. About a day or two's worth. Connor walked around in a circle, frustrated beyond belief. This is so annoying, Connor yelled. Why can't anything just be easy? Connor, everything's okay. It's just going to take a little longer to... No, Alex, it's not okay, Connor yelled. We've been in this world for almost a week and I want to go home. I miss Mom. I miss my friends. I'm even starting to miss Mrs. Peters. There, I admitted it. Connor was so upset that he kicked a tree, but he ended up just hurting his foot. Ouch, he yelled. I miss home too, but there's nothing I can do about it, Alex said. We'll get home when we get home, and that's that. But in the meantime, it doesn't do us any good to be angry. We just have to get through it. Connor crossed his arms and his shoulders slumped. He was aggravated almost to tears. Alex assumed that they were closer to the southern entrance and led them that way towards it. Connor verbalized his frustrations the entire way. I miss pavements and sidewalks, Connor ranted. I miss our crappy rental house. I miss our neighborhood. I miss that dog down the street that barks constantly at night. I miss homework. I miss getting detention for not doing homework. Let it out, Connor, Alex said. You'll feel better. I hate this place, Connor continued. I hate the dirt paths. I hate the man-eating witches. I hate the mutant-sized wolves. I hate sleeping outside. I hate bridge trolls. I hate all the trees. Wait, that's it. The trees. Connor searched the surroundings and headed to the big tree next to the kingdom's wall. What are you doing? Alex asked. I'm getting inside the kingdom. I'm going to climb this tree. Wrong voice. I'm getting inside the kingdom. I'm going to climb this tree and hop over the wall, Connor yelled back at her. He started climbing it very quickly and at a determined pace. It's a 30-foot drop on the other side at least, Alex shouted at him. Come on, Alex, Connor said, and he gestured for her to follow him. I'm not climbing that tree, she said. You'll climb up Rapunzel's tower, but a tree is out of the question? He asked mockingly. And I shouldn't have done that. I agree, she said, but she was ignored. Connor was almost at the top of the tree, and Alex ran over to the tree and climbed a little ways after him. Connor, please come down from there. I'd rather travel slowly and safely than quickly and dangerously, she said. Connor stood up on the tallest branch of the tree. The top of the wall was just a few feet away. I'm going to jump to the wall and see if I can see a spot a way down, Connor said. Connor, don't be stupid. Climb down right now. You're going to hurt yourself, Alex demanded. Wish me luck, Connor said. He prepped himself for the jump. 1, 2, 3. Connor jumped off the tree branch and soared towards the wall. No, Alex yelled. He had jumped a little too hard. He missed the wall by a few inches and flew over it head first. Alex! Connor bellowed as he fell. She heard a large thump from the other side, but she couldn't see anything. Connor! Alex screamed. Connor, are you all right? Connor, are you alive? She was hysterical. Alex clambered up the tree faster than any animal she'd ever seen in a documentary. Connor, answer me! She pleaded. Connor, can you hear me? Are you hurt? Alex heard laughter just as she reached the top of the tree. On the other side of the wall, she saw Connor lying safely on a big stack of hay. Hey, Alex, Connor said with a big smile on his face. Connor, you scared me to death, Alex shouted. I know, it was so entertaining, Connor said. Do you really think I would have jumped if I didn't see something on the other side to land on? I'm glad you're alive so that I can kill you myself, Alex said. Jump over, it's a soft landing, I promise, he said. Fine, Alex said. She carefully tossed him her bag before jumping over the fence. Connor was right. The landing was soft. They were covered in hay, and they brushed it off of each other. Take a look at this place, Alex said, as she and Connor journeyed into the Red Riding Hood kingdom. They felt as if they had entered another dimension all over again. There were rolling hills of farmland as far as they could see. Cows and sheep were grazing the fields. Shepherds with curved staffs and shepherdesses in large bonnets attended to the animals with their dogs. Everything's so peaceful here, Alex said. I feel like I'm in a nursery rhyme. They must be bored out of their mind, Connor said.
I wonder whose land this is, Alex said. A few moments later, Alex got the answer. They passed a big wooden sign stuck into the ground that said, Bo Peep Family Farms. The scenery was so pleasant that the time went by fairly fast. After they'd traveled a while longer, the peak and the pointed rooftops of the town came into view. They couldn't see much while looking at it from the outskirts, but once they were at the center of it, the town came to life. How adorable! Alex squeaked at first sight of the town. It was so dainty and picturesque that they felt like they were in a theme park. It was filled with tiny cottage homes and shops made of brick or stone walls and had hay roofs. A bell at the steeple of an old schoolhouse rang. Many staff carrying men and bonnet-wearing women like the ones they'd seen in the fields walking into the town, pulling goats and sheep along with them. Among many stores and shops were Henny Penny Bank, Jack Horner's Pie Shop, and Pat a Cake Bakery. I love your voice. Connor 100% sounds like a snarky little boy. Yeah, he is a snarky little boy. The Shoe Inn, just adjacent to the main town, was a boot of gigantic proportions turned into a working hotel. In the very center of the town was a grassy park that hosted several memorials and monuments. Alex was doing mental backflips at the sight of each of these. A small brick wall stood by itself and had a golden plaque on it that said, Sir Humpty Dumpty's Wall, you were a good egg and shall be missed, more than just the king's horses and men. Rest in pieces. Just past Humpty Dumpty's wall was a small hill with a well on top of it, and a sign pointed to the hill, Jack and Jill Hill. In the middle of the park was a circular fountain. A statue of a young shepherd boy stood in the center of it, and water poured from the mouths of the sheep that were under him. The carved dedication on the fountain read, In memory of the boy who cried wolf, you were a liar, but you were loved. The twins were so enthralled by everything that they were getting a strange look at. They were getting strange looks from the villagers and the townspeople. This place reminds me of a miniature golf course in the town, Connor said. Not the one by us, but the really legit one across town where all the rich kids live. At the edge of town was the best view of the parks, with the Little Red Riding Hood Castle. The castle had 4 tall towers that could be seen from anywhere in town. It appropriately had red walls with dark red roofs. A moat circled the castle and had its own watermill. The castle looked massive from far away. However, as the twins moved closer to it, they realized it wasn't very big at all. It was just built to look big. The moat around it was so small that one of the twins could easily have stepped over it. I bet you Red Riding Hood's basket is in there somewhere, Connor said. Alex retrieved the journal from out of her bag and began reading specific pieces about collecting the basket to Connor. Unlike every other place or castle, Red Riding Hood's isn't very difficult to break into. The castle was built so quickly after the CRAWL revolution that the builders forgot to add some basic necessities. The kitchen windows located at the back of the castle have no locks on them. You do need to read that to Max, Becca. The Red Riding Hood Kingdom is the safest and smallest of all the kingdoms. Therefore, they're short-handed on guards and soldiers. The hall of the castles are patrolled only at midnight, and the guards don't return to them until dawn. Sneaking into the castle between midnight and dawn through the kitchen windows and stay away from the main halls, then you should be fine. Queen Red Riding Hood has a special room in her chambers devoted to all the baskets that she's been given and acquired over the years. Find this room and you'll find her very first basket, the one she took to her grandmother's house all those years ago. You don't need to collect the whole basket, just a small chunk of the tree bark that surrounds the rim. It should be easy to identify, as there was already a bit of tree bark missing from when I collected it myself. All right. And I was just hoping we could ring the doorbell and ask for it, Connor said. Alex looked up at the towers and the windows. She wondered which window belonged to the room that they would find the basket in. As she looked up at the castle, something else entirely caught her eye. Look over there, Alex said as she pointed to the sky. Connor turned and looked up in the direction she was pointing. Sticking straight up into the air 100 feet or so was an enormous beanstalk. That must be Jack's beanstalk, Alex said. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? No, but I'm sure that you want to go and see the beanstalk, Connor said. Before he could finish, Alex had taken off towards it. The twins ran through the town and had to take a trail leading out of the town to get to the beanstalk. They passed a few cottage homes and more farmland as they traveled. It was much farther than they had thought. Eventually, they saw the base of the beanstalk ahead. It was thick and curly and had huge leaves. It grew right next to an old, decrepit shack that was only large enough to have one room inside of it. A little ways behind the beanstalk and the shack was a large, elegant manor with yellow bricks and enough chimneys and windows to hold a dozen rooms. "Which one of those is Jack's house?" Connor asked as they approached the beanstalk. Alex looked for a moment until she figured it out. That shack must be where Jack lived with his mother when they were poor, and then after they defeated the giant and became rich, they must have built a new home just behind it, she said happily. "They're both his." Connor shrugged. He had no reason to doubt her guess. "Well, look how tall it is," Alex said once they reached the base of the beanstalk. "It would have taken a lot of bravery to climb that." Just then they heard a door slam, and a man came out of the manor. He was young and tall, with short hair and broad shoulders. He was very good-looking, and he wore a subdued expression. He carried an axe and a log. "Welcome back, Shelley." "Look, Alex," Connor whispered. "Do you think that's Jack?" "I don't know," she whispered back. "Let's ask him." The man set the log on a chopping block in the front of the yard and began chopping the log into small pieces. "Hi there," Alex said, being extra friendly. "Hello," the man said, never looking up from his chopping. "Are you Jack?" Connor asked. "Yup," the man said. "Do you need something?" "No, we're just traveling around," Alex said. "We saw your beanstalk from all the way in town and wanted to get a closer look." "Most people do," Jack said. "I have to chop it down once a week because it grows so fast." His expression barely changed as he chopped the wood. Was he just accustomed to random people approaching his home and beanstalk and he'd become numb to it? "Well, you have a lovely home," Alex said. "Except for that eyesore in front of it," Connor said and nodded towards the shack behind him. "Connor, be polite," Alex said. "I've turned it into a workshop," Jack told them. He finished chopping the wood and collected the pieces in his hands and then went into the shack and slammed the door behind him. "Well, someone isn't very much of a conversationalist," Connor said. "I wonder what's wrong with him. He seems so different," Alex said. "Have you met before?" Connor asked. Sometimes he wondered if she'd forgotten that they were in a different world. "No, I just mean that, from the way he's always been described," Alex said. "He's always so energetic and adventurous. I wonder what's troubling him." Connor had another sarcastic comment to add, but he was distracted by a high-pitched sound coming from inside the manor. "Do you hear that?" Connor asked Alex. "It sounds like singing." They both turned their face towards the manor as a set of windows shutters were pushed open. The twins wouldn't have believed it if they hadn't been so close, but standing behind the open window was a golden woman. They both turned their face... She sang a soprano ballad as loudly as she could. A set of strings played along with her, but the twins couldn't see where the music was coming from. "Oh, the day is here, and so am I, to wistful dreams of birds that fly. If I had legs, I'd see the world and travel away. But I'm only a harp, and this window is where I shall stay." She turned her face towards the twins as she sang the final note, and they noticed a set of strings connected to her back. The strings played magically along with her voice. She was a magic harp. "Hello, children. I didn't see you there," the harp said. Alex jumped up and down. "Are you the magical harp?" she asked. "The one that Jack saved from the giant?" "The one and only," the harp said, and struck a dramatic pose. "And thank God he did, because the giants have terrible taste in music. You wouldn't believe the numbers that I was forced to perform for him. All the lyrics were about eating sheep and stepping on villagers. Would you like me to sing for you?" "No, thanks," Connor said. The harp took offense to this. "I remember that day like it was yesterday," the harp said. "There I was, minding my own business, being a slave for the giant, when suddenly this skinny peasant boy walks by and I was like, 'Hey there, why don't you rescue me? I could use some rescuing.' And the next thing I know, we were zooming down the beanstalk, being chased by the giant. Jack hopped down the beanstalk and the giant fell to his death, splat, right onto the Bo Peep Farms. It was quite a day." "How terrifying," Alex said. "It was the most excitement that I had in 100 years. Everything worked out just wonderfully, though. Jack and his mother became rich, and I wasn't a slave anymore. And the Bo Peep family said the giant was the best fertilizer their farm had ever used." That is so wrong, Connor said to himself. What are you two doing here? The harp asked them with a big smile. Alex and Connor looked at each other and both were afraid to answer. We're just visiting, Alex said. We've never been to the Red Riding Hood Kingdom before. Well then, welcome, the harp said. We were in town and saw the beanstalk and wanted to see it up close, Connor said. Don't you just love it here? I know I do. I've been around the world and I've never felt more comfortable. It's so safe here. The people are all friendly farmers, and the best part is no wolves are allowed. Are you two thinking of moving? Wouldn't that be nice? You should move here and visit me every day, the harp said. Oh, I'm so excited for Moana to start the book. I hope she loves it. The harp was very chatty, and the twins could tell she was desperate for attention. Spending every day cooped up in the house couldn't be easy. Well, we're actually on our way home, Connor said. We just have to make a stop at Red Riding Hood Castle, and then we'll be on our way. We've never been before. You should have Jack take you, the harp said. He's headed there this afternoon to meet with Queen Red Riding Hood. He is? Alex asked. Oh, yes, the harp said. He visits her at the end of every week and brings her a handmade basket every time. The harp looked side to side to make sure no one else was listening, but there was no one in sight. Now, you didn't hear this from me, the harp said with excitedly with gossip in her eyes. Queen Red Riding Hood calls him to the castle every week and proposes to him. Poor thing has been in love with him since they were kids. Really? Alex said. Does that mean that they're getting married? You can tell the kids are back in school. I can't stop talking, sitting in the car. That's funny, Becca. Oh, heavens, no, the harp said. Jack can't stand her. He turns her down every time. Why would he do that? Doesn't he want to be king? Connor asked. His heart belongs to someone else, the harp said sadly, and the strings on her back began playing a sad chord. Who does he love? Alex asked. Let me guess, Connor said. Little Miss Muffet? Of course not, the harp said. Miss Muffet married Georgie Porgy, but everyone knows he had countless affairs, but that's another story. Back to Jack, Alex said. Oh, right. Well, I'm not sure who he's in love with. I've never seen her, the harp said. All I know is he's never been the same since she moved away. Alex and Connor looked at each other with the same questioning expression. Who could it be? Was that the same reason he seemed so gloomy? The door of the shack opened, and Jack emerged with a basket from the pieces of wood that he had just chopped. Hey, Jack, I have a wonderful idea, the harp called out. Why don't you take these two with you to the castle? They've never been inside it before. Jack seemed hesitant. Please, Mr. Jack, Alex pleaded, we won't be any trouble. Come on, Jack, make their day, the harp pleaded. All right, Jack said. Jack turned and began traveling towards the town. The twins ran after him. Thanks so much, Alex called. Thanks so much, Alex called back to the harp. You're welcome, the harp said. Come back and visit me, please. Jack was a very fast walker. His legs were much longer than the twins, so they found it difficult to keep up with him. It's very kind of you to let us tag along, Alex said to Jack, but he never looked up from the ground. You're not much of a talker, are you? Connor said. I don't have much to say, Jack said. Connor nodded at him. He understood completely. As they neared the town, Alex pulled Connor aside. How lucky is this, she said. If we get inside the castle and get a hold of the basket, we'll be out of this kingdom in no time. They traveled into the town and reached the castle. There was a large set of wooden doors at the castle's entrance. Jack knocked on the door. A moment later, a small window at the middle of the door opened and a set of eyes appeared. Who goes there? Said a voice on the other side of the door. It's Jack, Jack said. Again. Who's that behind you? The voice demanded, and the eyes looked over Jack's shoulder into Alex and Connor. They waved awkwardly. Oh, what are your names again? Jack asked the twins. Alex and Connor, Alex told him and gave him a thumbs up. These are my friends, Alex and Connor. They're accompanying me into the castle today, Jack said. The doors opened and the twins followed Jack into the castle. It felt like a condensed version of Cinderella's palace. The halls weren't quite as long, and the furniture wasn't quite as nice, and there weren't quite as many portraits hung on the wall, but they were all of Queen Red Riding Hood at various ages and different poses, each more grand than the last. The twins waited with Jack in the hall outside another set of doors, and Jack knocked on those doors and immediately took a seat on the bench outside of them. "This part always takes a moment," Jack said. The series of footsteps and the sounds of rushing came from the other side of the doors. "Wait, don't open the door. I'm not ready yet," someone whispered. "Hand me that cape. No, not that one. The other one, the one with the hood. Hurry." Jack began to whistle as he waited. "How do I look? What about my dress? Does it seem right to you?" The whispers continued. "All right, I'm really ready. Let him in, quickly." Jack stood up just as the doors were opened by a pink-faced, out-of-breath handmaiden. She escorted Jack inside, and the twins followed. They entered the long room with tall windows on both sides. The walls were covered in more portraits of the queen. Looking up from the floor was a giant wolf head with red eyes and a set of sharp teeth. It looked just like one of the wolves that the twins had seen in Dwarf Forest, and it alarmed them at first before they discovered it was just a wolfskin rug spread out on the floor. The twins knew without asking that the rug must have been the big bad wolf himself at one point. At the very end of the room, perched elegantly, almost too elegantly, on a large throne was Queen Red Riding Hood. "Hello, Jack," Red Riding Hood said. Red Riding Hood was a very pretty young woman, around the same age as Jack. She had bright blue eyes and blonde hair that was done up glamorously behind her crown. She wore a long red gown with a matching hooded cape and a pink corset. She wore a necklace with massive diamonds, and her shoulders were completely bare. She wore a long pair of gloves with a dozen sparkling rings on her fingers. She was showing too much skin. She was wearing too much makeup, and she was dressed too well for the middle of the day. "Hello, Red," Jack said. "What a surprise! I wasn't expecting you," she said. "Uh-huh," Jack said. "And I see you brought guests?" Red asked. She was not happy to see that she and Jack were not alone. "Yep, this is Alex and Connor," Jack said. "Hello," Alex said bashfully. "Sup, Red?" Connor said as he got elbowed by his sister. "Hello," Red said behind a clenched and very fake smile. "Welcome to my castle. Please have a seat." Red clapped her hands and two servants placed a large, cushy chair right next to her throne for Jack to sit on. They brought Alex and Connor each a small stool to sit on some distance away from Red and Jack. Jack moved the chair back away from the throne a couple of feet before sitting on it. He handed Red the basket that he had made for her. "Is this for me?" Red asked him. "Oh my gosh, how thoughtful of you. You're just too sweet for words. I will cherish it." "You always do," Jack said. "So tell me, what's new with you?" Red asked Jack. She was leaning toward him as far as she possibly could without falling off of her throne. "Nothing much," Jack said. "Same old, same old." His body language made it obvious that he was ready to leave from the minute that he sat down. "How's the kingdom?" "Oh, I never bother myself with talk of the economy and security and peasants' needs and blah, blah, blah," said Red. "My granny takes care of all of that for me. She's much better at it than I would be anyway." Red got tired of holding the basket. She snapped her fingers and a handmaiden collected the basket from her. "Put it with the others," Red instructed. The handmaiden collected it from her and headed out of the room. The twins figured this was their chance. "May we see the others?" Alex asked. "The others?" Red asked. "The other baskets," Alex said. Red was looking at her peculiarly. "My brother loves baskets." Connor nodded, going along with it. Yeah, I do. They're my most favorite thing ever," Connor said. "You know what they say, life is better with baskets." Red was staring at them as if they were the strangest people she'd ever met in her life. "If you wish," she said and shooed them off. Alex and Connor jumped up and followed her handmaiden out of the room. "Where does Queen Red Riding Hood keep all of the baskets?" Alex asked the handmaiden and then winked at Connor. She wasn't very good at playing dumb. "She has a chamber dedicated entirely to the baskets," the handmaiden said. "So she has a basket room?" Connor asked. Yes, and if you've received as many baskets a year as she does, you would too, the handmaiden said. How many are we talking about? Connor asked. You'll see, she said. The handmaiden opened a door and the three of them walked inside. The room was twice the size of the room they had just been in and was filled from floor to ceiling with thousands and thousands of baskets. Some were on shelves, some were stacked neatly, and others were piled just around the room. The handmaiden tossed the basket from Jack into a pile on one side of the room. The queen gets them for birthdays, holidays, and any other special occasion, the handmaiden said. Some are from the villagers, some are from friends, some are from other monarchs from other kingdoms. Alex and Connor looked around the room with their mouths open. How would they ever find the basket they were looking for in all of this? Do you mind if we have a look around? Alex managed to say through her shock. I suppose, the handmaiden said. She looked at the twins curiously and left them inside the basket room. The twins could barely breathe. They felt as if a dumbbell had suddenly been tied to their chests. I have never felt so overwhelmed in my life, Connor declared. This is like trying to do the whole summer break packet of homework the day before school starts again, but 1,000 times worse. How are we going to look through all of these? It's not that bad, Alex tried convincing him, but she didn't even convince herself. We just need to start. You take one side and I'll take the other. Let's do this. They split up and rapidly began looking through piles and piles of baskets, one with a bark rim. They knew they didn't have much time, and they grew more anxious after each second. They had no idea there could be so many shapes and sizes and designs for baskets. Like snowflakes, each one was different from the next. Alex was paranoid that she had missed it. Connor kept getting splinters and shouting, "Ah!" every time it happened. They'd been there for almost an hour, and they still hadn't even covered a fourth of the room. They were making a huge mess. The room was twice as disorganized now as it had been when they entered, and even Alex wasn't hesitating, throwing baskets around that she had already examined. "This is impossible!" Connor yelled, kicking a pile of baskets. And just as he kicked the pile, the door swung open and the handmaiden returned. Alex and Connor froze. She was appalled by the chaos they had caused. I don't know what on earth you're doing, but I think it's time for you two to leave, she said. The handmaiden escorted them back to the throne room, and this time she watched them like a hawk as they sat on their stools. Queen Red Riding Hood was literally hanging off her throne and grabbing a hold of Jack's chair as she talked to him. The twins had never seen Jack look so bored and lifeless. Neither of them noticed the twins' return. You know, Jack, Red said, circling his forearm with her finger, the Red Riding Hood kingdom isn't much of a kingdom without a king. Well, perhaps you should change the name to Red Riding Hood Kingdom, Jack said. Red laughed much harder than she should have. Oh, you're so funny. That's not what he meant. What I'm trying to tell you, Jack, is that I've never been more ready to get married. So if someone asked for my hand in marriage today, then I would say yes. Do you know anyone who might be interested in marrying me? In being a king? Anyone? A white dove suddenly flew by one of the windows outside and sat on the window ledge. As soon as Jack saw it, his face entirely lit up. His eyes grew wide and he smiled. For once, he looked happy. He turned to Red. Clearly, she wasn't used to seeing him like this either. The twins could practically see her heart beating out of her chest as excitement filled her body. Was he going to propose? Was this the moment she'd been waiting so long for? Red, Jack said. Yes, Jack, Red said. I have to go, Jack said, jumping up and heading out of the throne room. Red almost fell out of her throne. Go, she said. Go where? Home, Jack called out, not even looking back at her. I'll see you next week. Red crossed her arms and pouted. He was the only thing preventing her from having everything. The twins felt as though it was best to leave with Jack, so they followed him out of the castle. It was wonderful meeting you, Alex and Connor, Jack said and shook their hands. Likewise, Alex said. Thanks again for taking us to the castle. My pleasure. I hope to run into you someday soon, Jack said, and then he headed back in the direction of his home with a new bounce in his step. It was very strange. Jack was now acting like the person Alex had always thought that he would be. What's that guy's deal anyway? He goes from someone who's a zombie to a camp counselor in a matter of seconds, Connor said. I don't know, Alex said, looking at him as they walked away. He was a very odd man. Looks like we'll be sneaking into the castle tonight after all, Connor said and slumped into a seated position on the ground. Hold on. I just got a text from my sister. Big pivot. Ay, ay, ay. I hate a pivot. Let's see what she says. I'm waiting for the next text to come through. I hate a pivot. I really hate a pivot. Come on, Catherine. Hold on. I'm going to pause the live and text. Okay. It's actually not a big deal. Zoe just didn't sleep well last night, so she's staying home with her dad and sleeping, and Catherine's going to her appointment alone. Max is working from home this morning, and he's going to watch her so that she can just stay asleep, which is fine because she didn't sleep well last night. She's in a sleep regression. It's been a hard week for Zoe sleep-wise. So you know how babies are. They're up and down with sleep all the time. Let me just respond to her and tell her it's okay, and I'll be right back. No. No, I'm not going anywhere. Nope, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to read and then get right to work. It's going to be a very easy day for me, it looks like. So that's nice. All right, where was I? Sorry about the interruption. At least we know what to expect tonight, and we already went through a good portion of the baskets, Alex said. We'll just have to wait till midnight. In the meantime, I could really use a nap, Connor said. The twins traveled up the street and booked a room at the Shoe Inn. Their room had a perfect view of Red Riding Hood Castle. It was somewhere near the shoe's tongue because a set of laces went through their walls. The room also had a working bathtub, and they both took turns using it since they hadn't been able to bathe in so long. That was the best bath I think I've ever had, Connor said. They both decided to rest for a bit, and as soon as their bodies touched the bed, they both fell into a deep sleep. They slept for a few hours and woke up shortly before midnight. So what's our game plan for tonight? Connor said. It'll be the first time we'll ever be breaking and entering anywhere, so I'm anxious. Let's take account of everything that we have now, Alex said, and dumped out all the contents of their bag onto the bed. We have 2 blankets, a bag of gold coins, a dagger, a lock of Rapunzel's hair, a glass slipper, a map, a journal, a satchel of food, Alex listed. We can use the dagger to cut a chunk of the wood out of the basket, but it's going to be dark, so we'll need some light. Well, let's take these lanterns, Connor said, and gathered the lanterns that were on their bedside. Great, Alex said. We should plan on leaving the kingdom right after, just in case we run into some trouble. So we'll head to the east entrance of the kingdom, and that'll bring us closer to the border of the fairy kingdom. Connor lowered his head. I was so looking forward to coming back to this bed. At 1:45, Alex and Connor gathered all of their things, lit their lanterns, and left the Shoe Inn. They walked across town to the castle. It was so quiet at night, not even the farm animals were up this late. They hid behind Humpty Dumpty's wall and watched through the castle as the guards patrolled the halls. Just a few more minutes and they'll leave, Alex said. And a few minutes later, they saw fewer and fewer guards walk past the windows. Are they gone? Connor asked. They must be, Alex said. Let's go. They ran around to the back of the castle and saw a large kitchen through a set of windows. They hopped across the moat, they knew they'd be able to, and pulled at the window. Like the journal had said, it didn't even have a lock, and it opened easily. Alex crawled into the kitchen first. It was as quiet as possible, and the only sound she made came from the intense beats of her heart. Connor climbed in after and knocked over a stack of pots and pans. Alex was mortified. I am going to kill you, she mouthed at him. I'm sorry, he mouthed back at her. They waited for a moment to see if anyone had heard the disturbance, but no one had. The twins left the kitchen. Sorry, I was turning off my blanket. The twins left the kitchen and found themselves in a hallway. With no surprise, more portraits of Red Riding Hood. That Red Riding Hood sure loves having her portrait painted, Connor said. Maybe there are so many paintings because she's the first monarch the kingdom has ever had and it doesn't have the history the Charming Kingdom has, Alex said. Or she's just a self-obsessed twit, Connor said. They traveled down the hall, and then another one, and then a set of stairs, and then down another hall. Do you know where you're going? Connor asked. I thought I was following you, Alex said. What? Since when do you follow me? Connor said. A shadow was creeping towards them from down the hall. As it got closer, they could see it was the silhouette of a guard. A guard! Alex whispered, and she pointed at the shadow. They ran down the hall and entered the first room that they found. The room was pitch black. Where are we now? Connor asked. Why are you asking me questions you know I don't have the answers to? Alex said. Alex waited by the door and listened for the guard to pass by. Connor moved around the room with his hands stretched out in the darkness so he wouldn't bump into anything. Their eyes began to adjust to the darkness. Alex, I think I can see something. Connor walked right into what he thought was a doorway and suddenly saw a pale face staring back at him. He fell into the door with fear and he screamed as quietly as he could. Alex, there's someone standing over there in the doorway. He's so creepy and so ugly, Connor said, pointing up. Alex ran to his side and squinted her eyes to see what he was talking about. That's a doorway, and that's a mirror, you idiot, Alex said. Oh, Connor said, and Alex helped him up to his feet. Oh my, what big claws you have, said a voice behind Alex and Connor, causing them both to jump 5 feet into the air. They turned to see an enormous 4-poster bed with silky red sheets and white curtains around it. In the bed, talking in her sleep, was Queen Red Riding Hood. We're in the Queen's bedroom, Connor whispered to Alex. Oh my, what a big nose you have, Grandma, said Red, still very much asleep. Is she having a nightmare? Connor asked. Oh my, what sharp teeth you have! Wolf! Red screamed and sat up straight in her bed. Awake, Alex and Connor dropped to the floor out of her view. She was out of breath. Beads of sweat appeared on her forehead, and finally she caught her breath. Not again, she said, and then frustrated, she laid back down to sleep. Alex and Connor were afraid to move. Did she go back to sleep yet? Connor asked. How are we supposed to tell? Alex asked. Oh my, what big strong arms you have, Jack, Red said. I'm guessing that she's asleep, Connor said, confidently stood up. Oh my, what soft lips you have, Jack, Red said. Let's get out of here before we hear her describe anything else, Connor said. They emerged back into the hallway and traveled around the castle for a while longer. All the halls looked so familiar it seemed impossible to find the basket room. Every time they thought they had found the right room, they found themselves in a drawing room or a dining room or a ballroom. Let's find the entrance and retrace our steps to the throne room, Alex began, but Connor interrupted her. No need. The baskets are in there, he said, and he pointed to a door beside them. How do you know? Alex asked him. Because I remember the portrait of Red Riding Hood next to the basket room, Connor said, and pointed to the portrait where Red Riding Hood was standing barely clothed with only a wolf skin to cover her. Alex gave Connor a really dirty look. What? Connor asked with a smirk. It's memorable. They pushed the door open and found the room that they had spent the entire afternoon in. Let's take it from where we left off, Alex said, and she and Connor split up and headed to the areas they had last searched. It had been hard during the day, but it was even harder at night, since the only light they had was from their lanterns. After a few hours of searching, their anxiety levels were as high as Jack's beanstalk, and suddenly the twins heard a loud clank! What was that? Alex said. Alex, look up here, Connor said, pointing to a window. On the window's ledge was a tiny X-shaped object. What's that? Asked Alex. It's a grappling hook, Connor said. It jerked slightly in consistent pattern. I think someone's climbing up. Hide! They left their lanterns on the ground and dove behind the pile of baskets. Uh-oh. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? Uh-oh. A moment later, a figure appeared at the window ledge. It took out a sharp knife and cut out a large circle in the window and then quietly crawled into the room. It was a woman the twins had never seen before. Her clothing were made out of plant leaves sewn together, and her hair was a shade of red so dark that it almost seemed purple. The woman scanned the room and looked cautiously at the 2 lanterns. Did she know that the twins were in there? Like an animal, the woman began sniffing around the room. She searched through the baskets as she sniffed, discarding some by tossing them behind her. She went around the room, using her nose as a guide, and finally she locked in on one direction. She climbed on top of a pile of baskets to reach up to the top of a shelf. She reached her hand to the back of the shelf as she pulled out a basket. It had a rim made of tree bark. Connor and Alex looked at each other. There it is. The woman carved a big chunk of bark out of the basket and then tucked it safely into her belt. She put the basket back on the shelf and then climbed down the pile of baskets and headed for the window. She was just about to climb through the window when she heard an "Ah!" from the other side of the room. Connor had given himself another splinter from hiding behind baskets. "Connor!" Alex mouthed. "Sorry," he mouthed back. The woman walked towards where they were hiding. She squinted in their direction for a moment. Alex and Connor were both too frightened to even breathe. They knew she knew that they were there. What was she going to do to them? The woman looked around at the ground at one of their lanterns, and a coy smile appeared on her face. She kicked it into a pile of baskets and disappeared through the window and back down the rope connected to the grappling hook. "That was a close one," Connor said. "Good thing she didn't find us, or we'll be in some—" "Connor, look!" The pile of baskets that the woman had kicked the lantern to was on fire. "Oh boy," Connor said. "We've got to get out of here." "Not until I get a piece of that basket," Alex said. She reached into her bag, pulled out the dagger, and she ran up the pile of baskets to the top of the shelf, just as she'd seen the woman do. She wasn't as tall as the woman, so she had to reach further to get it. "Alex, hurry!" Connor said. The fire was growing and spreading around the room to different piles and stacks of baskets. He tried blowing out the fire, but it didn't work. These were large flames, not birthday candles. Alex had to climb up on top of the shelf to reach the basket, but she finally wrapped her fingers around it and grabbed it. "Gotcha!" she said, pulling it out. The bark around it had 2 chunks missing from the rim, one from who had ever written the journal and the other from whoever that woman was. Alex sank her dagger into the basket and began cutting out a piece of it. "Alex, unless you want to leave this place extra crispy, I suggest you hurry," Connor yelled. Half of the room was already ablaze. It was becoming unbearably hot inside the room. Dark smoke was filling the air, making it hard to breathe. "I got it," Alex said, and made her way down to Connor. The flames had covered the door that they entered from. "How are we going to get out of here?" Alex yelled. The sound of running footsteps came from the hall outside the door. Through the flames, the twins could see the faces of several alarmed guards. "Fire! Fire in the castle!" the guard yelled. "Get the queen to safety! Get some water!" Another guard pulled directly at the twins. "You two, stay where you are!" "Not likely," Connor yelled. He picked up a particularly heavy basket and threw it at a window, causing it to shatter. He grabbed his sister's hand and pulled her towards it. They breathed the fresh air from outside. "Look, the watermill is right below us," Connor said, and started climbing down out of the window and down towards it. He helped his sister out of the window, and as they climbed down towards the watermill together, halfway down, the flames burst through all the windows in the basket rooms, and the entire room was inferno. The watermill began to turn from the twins' weight, and they suddenly fell straight into the moat, which wouldn't have been such a rough landing if the moat had been deeper than 3 feet. The twins clambered out of the moat and began running as fast as they could from the castle. No guards or soldiers were chasing them. They must have been inside the castle trying to put out the fire. Alex and Connor ran out of the town, and they were on their way towards the eastern gate of the Red Riding Hood Kingdom in a matter of minutes. They only looked back once and saw that almost half of the castle was now on fire. A thick trail of smoke filled the sky. "Was that the 4th or 5th time we've narrowly escaped death this week?" Connor asked. "Who is that woman?" Alex asked. "And why was she looking for the basket too?" "Thank God she found it, otherwise we may never have," Connor said. The most worrisome thought came to Alex's mind. "Connor, you don't think that someone else is collecting items for the wishing spell, do you?" He had to think about it, but she could see it was just as troubling for him to consider as it was for her. "I doubt it," Connor said. "Think about all the trouble the man who wrote the journal went through to learn about it. I'd be shocked if someone else knew anything about it." Alex nodded. They both knew it was very unlikely, but the possibility still lingered in their heads. A few hours later, the twins could see the eastern gate of Red Riding Hood Kingdom wall in the distance. The guards must have extinguished the fire in the castle because there was no more smoke filling the air. The night sky was at its darkest just before dawn. As they reached the gate, they could see something moving near it. Spooked from the events earlier, Alex and Connor dove behind a bush and watched from afar. It was a man pacing near the gate. He was tall and seemed young. There was something oddly familiar about him. "Is that Jack?" Alex asked. Connor took a closer look. "It is. What's he doing all the way out here? Suddenly, a hooded figure came into view on the other side of the gate. Who is that? Connor asked. Jack carefully approached the gate. There was so much tension between him and whoever was on the other side of the gate that the twins could feel it. He had been waiting for whoever it was all night. Hello, Jack, said the hood figure. Hello, Goldie, he said. And then the twins realized who it was. Goldilocks. She was wearing the dark maroon coat that they had seen her wear in the dwarf forest. How do they know each other? Alex asked. Connor shook his head. No idea. I saw your dove, Jack said. I knew that you must have sent it. I did, Goldilocks said. I knew you'd recognize it. Doves are so hard to train these days. The twins could tell from the way that they were standing that Goldilocks and Jax had much to say to each other, but they said very little. Instead, they just stared into each other's eyes with their bodies pressed against the bars between them. I hate these bars between us, Jack said. It's either the bars of this gate or the bars of a prison cell, I'm afraid, Goldilocks said. I worry about you constantly, Jack said. I'm a big girl. I can take care of myself, Goldilocks said. I wish you would let me come with you, Jack said. You know I'd pack my things and leave right now if you'd let me. No sense in ruining 2 lives, Goldilocks said. You'll find someone else someday. You've been saying that since you left, yet here I am year after year meeting you in the shadows, Jack said. She's the one he's in love with, Alex said, putting the pieces together. She's the reason Jack won't marry Red Riding Hood. She's the girl the harp was telling us about. Oh, Connor said, this is like a soap opera. Jack placed his hand over Goldilocks' hands. I swear, if I ever find the person who wrote that letter, I'll kill him, Jack said. They're the reason for this whole mess. What's done is done, and it can never be undone, Goldilocks said. She and Jack were touching foreheads through the bars. One day I'll clear your name, Jack said. I promise, and then we can be together. Clear my name? Goldilocks said, and backed away from him. I'm a fugitive, Jack. I steal, I run, I even kill when I have to. No one can clear me of that. It's just who I am. It's what I've become. It didn't start as your fault, and you know it, Jack said. Goldilocks grew silent. I love you, Jack said, and I know you love me. You don't have to say it back, but I just know it. I'm a criminal, and you're a hero, Goldilocks said with teary eyes. A flame may love a snowflake, but they can never be together without harming each other. Then let me melt, Jack said, and he reached through the gate and pulled Goldilocks close to him, and they kissed. It was a passionate, pure, and long overdue kiss. Alex became misty eyes, and Connor scrunched up his face as if he'd smelled something foul. Good thing those bars are between them, Connor said. Shut up, Connor, Alex said. Goldilocks pushed herself away from Jack. I have to go, she said. I have to be as far away from this place by sunrise as I can. Let me come with you, Jack begged. No, Goldilocks said. When will I see you next? A week? A month? A year? He asked. Porridge walked up behind Goldilocks, and she leapt onto the horse and took hold of the reins. Just wait for the dove, she said, and rode off into the night with her cream-colored horse. Jack watched her until she wasn't visible anymore. Suddenly, all the life in his body faded away, and he once again became the sad man the twins had met earlier. He sadly turned away from the gate and slowly headed home. I guess not every fairy tale character gets a happily ever after, Alex said. Alex and Connor ran up to the gate. It was locked, so they had to climb over it, finally making their way out of Red Riding Hood Kingdom, just as the sun started to rise. What, Becca? I don't know what you're talking about. But that was chapter 10. Sad for Jack, and also sad for Red. The wolf scared you as a kid. Yeah, that makes sense. There was a random repeated noise. Oh, it's probably our neighbor dog. I'm back, but I assume you're done now. What time is it? It's 7:53. Let's see how long the next chapter is. Yeah, it's pretty long. We'll have to do the next chapter tomorrow because I got to get to work. It is Monday after all. But we're pretty much about halfway done with the book now. So we're about the halfway point. Ugh. Okay. Well, is there I thought it was a crow. No, it's definitely sounded like a dog from the neighborhood. I also love this book. I also love this book. I want to go to work. You want to go to work? Come, do it. Have fun. Do it. Get to work. I will see you all later. We will probably do some roll for slimes and some custom slimes later, because I have a lot of those to get through. Probably on the earlier side of the afternoon so that I can take them to the post. I have to make sure that she doesn't read ahead and get spoiled. I mean, how fast does she read? If she just got it, she probably wouldn't be able to catch up because we're already on chapter 11. So unless she reads like super duper fast, I don't know. Maybe she reads that fast. I don't know how old she is. I can't remember. Yeah, you can do all the computer work. I have no interest. Zero. Goose egg. She'll sit for hours and read. Okay, then maybe she will get ahead of us. I was that kid too, but anyway, I'll be back in probably a fairly short while. She's 10. Oh yeah, she might be able to beat us. Maybe like noon or 1 to do those roll for slimes so that I can pack them up. I had to hop on a call with my boss to figure she's out. I came back at the end. All right, I'll see y'all later. Bye, guys.